F1 silly season is always a little bit crazy around this time of year, but in 2022, it's gone absolutely f***ing mental. We're now in a situation where the 2023 grid could be without Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo and Mick Schumacher. Oh, and also King Latifi, but Anyway, while I've already made videos on Seb and Danny Rick, I'm yet to siphon any views off the whole Mick Schumacher situation. So let's set that right. The Haas Formula One team, ever the staple on the FP1 channel, have Kevin Magnussen locked into a multi-year deal he signed when he returned to the squad at the start of the year. The Dane has been performing well, and coming into the Dutch Grand Prix, lies 11th in the standings on 22 points, so that's all fine. Good work, Gunther. It's on the other side of the garage where things get a little bit more uncertain. There you have Mick Schumacher, 15th in the standings on just 12 points. And at the end of the rookie deal he signed in 2021. Haas, as a result, have been fishing in the driver market over recent weeks, holding brief talks with Daniel Ricciardo, who we're pretty sure responded with a fat no. And this is still Haas, so I can't say I blame him. Mick's potential replacement seems to change every 5 minutes, though the current favourite is Antonio Giovinazzi, aka Italian Jesus, aka Perspective F1. Basically, this guy has more nicknames than he does points finishes at this stage. Gio was let go from Alfa at the end of 2021, leaving the sport in Abu Dhabi relatively quietly, while everything else around him went to utter shit. The Italian then moved to my favourite series, Formula E, where he somehow managed to be even more irrelevant. And don't get me wrong, from what I've seen, Gio seems like a really great guy, but when the only person below you in the standings is your last race replacement, it's not great in a series where even Stoffel Van Dorn can look competitive. But yet, here we are, with Antonio scheduled for 2 FP1 sessions with Haas so they can assess his performance. Thing is, this video's not about Jesus here, it's about the man he might be replacing, Germany's Mick Schumacher. Mick's first 18 months in Formula One have been okay? I think that's about the gist of it. His first year is a tough one to analyse. Haas was and the only real point of comparison was his teammate. Who was this guy? Maybe the only thing we could take away was the discarded carbon fibre shed around each of the circuits. You see, Mick had a tendency to hit the wall quite a lot. The real comparisons could be made in 2022, however. Mick now had a competent car and a competent teammate in Kevin Magnussen. And it's fair to say, the year didn't get off to the best of starts. K-Mag surprised us all and was quick out of the gate, finishing P5 at the season opener in Bahrain, all while Schumacher failed to break into the top 10. Saudi Arabia, though, was looking much better for the German, looking set for his first Q3 appearance before he tried to take the title of biggest Haas F1 crash away from Romain Grosjean. With his VF22 destroyed and Mick understandably a little bit shaken after the incident, Haas opted to pull him out of the Grand Prix on Sunday. Schumacher would return for round 3 in Australia, and though he would beat Magnussen in both qualifying and the race, the team weren't competitive, with a duo down in P13 and 14 by the flag. Thankfully, the American squad seemed to have got it together for Imola though, with Schumacher matching his career best with a P12 in qualifying. This would have looked great had his teammate not been starting on the second row. In fairness to Mick, he would make up ground in the sprint race, though would then proceed to throw it all the way on Sunday with a spin on the first lap. Throwing it all the way would seem to become the German's motto as F1 headed to Miami. Once again in contention for points, Mick clearly wanted to chat to his mentor Sebastian Vettel instead. Spain would be another race to forget for Haas. Despite both cars getting into the top 10 in qualifying, they didn't have the pace and fell away in the Grand Prix. So Mick still didn't have his first points, but maybe that would change in Monaco, with wet weather promising an action-packed race for once. Never mind. Azerbaijan would see Mick slowest of anyone in qualifying, but at the next Grand Prix in Canada, he seemed to have found some form and was back contending inside the top 10. But here's a quiz question for you all. What engine supplier did Haas use? Here's your answer. Things would finally change at Silverstone. Despite Haas's worst qualifying of the year with both cars out in Q1, they would take advantage of everyone blowing up ahead to get into the points-paying positions. By the flag, Mick was ahead of his teammates in P8, and finally capable of showing off his wheel-to-wheel prowess in a battle with Max Verstappen. Much better than his move on Vettel in Miami, that's for sure. This race, I feel, was a bit of a turning point in Mick's season, as he'd show up to Austria as arguably the better Haas driver. He wasn't allowed past Magnussen in the sprint or in the race, but on Sunday he opted just to do it anyway, resulting in a career best 6th for the German. The team have failed to score since then, but looking back at what we have to go off so far, Mick's confidence and thus his overall form seem to have been growing since the start of the year. The number of mistakes have come down too, meaning Haas might just have a budget to play with for 2023. I think this is why the team have broken the norm when it comes to sorting their driver lineup for next year. While normally Gunther would do his deals throughout the summer break, with Mick on the verge of turning a corner, and the driver market being so wide open this year, it makes more sense to wait it out and just see what happens. Despite this though, the general feeling is that Schumacher still won't be retained by Haas next year, basically meaning he'll be under pressure to perform, especially over the next few races. And the thing is, I just don't see that boding too well. We've seen Mick perform at his best when the pressure is well and truly off. Look at Austria, for example, after he'd finally secured his first points at Silverstone the race before. Or just look at how he trounced Nikita Mazepin when finishing higher than P19 was a plus back in 2021. And now let's go back to Saudi Arabia, where Mick had just been well and truly beaten by a man Haas fetched out of their own dumpster at short notice. The man, let's not forget, who Mick replaced at the end of 2020. Where did all that added pressure leave him? Oh yeah, straight into a concrete wall. But you know what, let's take this narrative as fact. Let's say Haas do announce Ricciardo or Jesus or anyone instead of Mick for 2023. Where does that leave the German? Well, Alpine seems set on hiring Gasly from AlphaTauri and creating an all-French lineup with no bad blood whatsoever. Alfa Romeo, meanwhile, are set to re-sign Zhou again, leaving Mick with, realistically, only two options. He could first go to AlphaTauri. Now, this may sound odd, but just hear me out here. Schumacher recently parted ways with the Ferrari Driver Academy, which makes sense, given Sainz and Leclerc are locked down at the Scuderia for a while, and that it's Ferrari. So, what about a move to Red Bull? Or at least their junior team. Current paddock rumours suggest that were Gasly to move to Alpine, they would try and get McLaren to give up Colton Herta as his replacement. You'd think McLaren would do this, since they don't really have anywhere else to place the American, but let's just not go down that contract route again, shall we? Schumacher is believed to be Marco's second option in the seat alongside Yuki Tsunoda, and I know what you're all saying. What about the 3 trillion different Red Bull juniors currently in Formula 2? Well, apparently Marco isn't impressed by any of them, and besides, the likes of Ayumu Iwasa and Dennis Hauger need at least another year in the series to mature before finally being ready to step up into Formula 1. So AlphaTauri will be Mick's best, albeit least likely, destination. The other seat out there belongs to the GOAT himself at Williams. It's been clear for a while that the team don't really want Latifi in their car anymore, and while he may still luck himself into a drive for 2023, it's more likely that Alex Albon will have a new teammate next year. Logan Sargent is impressed in Formula 2, though, like Iwasa and Hauger, is still only in his first full season. So Williams may want to give him one more in a bid to be ready for a race seat in 2024. That would make Schumacher a very good stopgap. It keeps the German in Formula 1, where he can hopefully show how good he really is. The only downside is that he'll be driving a Williams. But a Williams drive is still better than nothing. Daniel Ricciardo may not think so, but let's be honest, Mick can't afford to take a sabbatical. He takes 1 year out, there's no way he's getting back in. So at the end of all this, where do I see Mick Schumacher in 2023? Well, I hate to say it, but I can't see him being on the Formula 1 grid, that's for sure. Now, part of the reason I'm saying that is just because most of my predictions, and especially those I've made this year, age like So, with that being said, get ready for a Hamilton shock retirement and Mick at Mercedes for 2023. Those, though, are just my thoughts, so let me know yours down in the comments below. Has Mick done enough this year, and where do you see the German in 2023? As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content like this every single week. And a big thank you to all my patrons as well, especially Augusto Gabaldoni and Hennas who started supporting the channel in the last few days. If you want to help out as well, or just check out any of my other socials, the links to all of that are down in the description below. Anyway, that's all from me. I'll see you soon for the race review this Sunday, but until then, have a good one.